Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cross.Culture.Critic. I'm Chris.
And I'm Joe.
Welcome to the show. How you doing, Joe?
Good.
You look old.
I am old. I feel old. I turned 41, but we already knew that because we did one in June, didn't we?
We did do one in June.
The last one was June,
Yeah.
so I would have been 41 by then. But since then, I'm down. Since we last did whatever, I'm down another 20 pounds.
Nice.
So I'm down 35 pounds. I think
Nice.
on our last one I was down 15. So
Very cool. Congratulations.
yeah. Thank you. So I'm feeling good.
I'm also older. I'm 39. Turned 39 a few weeks ago.
Yeah, you did.
So I got the last year of my young 30s ahead of me. So, it's been a long time again. Just letting you guys know, life happened again. You took a long vacation. Part of that.
Yeah. No,
was-
I was gone for quite a while.
You went up north, right?
Yep.
How was that?
Oh, that's always great, just to
Nice.
get away and
Just relaxing.
yeah. What's funny is if you're listening to this outside of Michigan, we have a thing in Michigan. I don't know if you do it in other states, but we have something where we call it up north. And so mainly, if you look at Michigan, it looks like a mitten and then the upper peninsula. And if you were to draw your hand like in half, anything above the halfway point of like the mitten is considered up north.
Okay, so growing up, what was up north for you? Because I've always thought it changes.
Up
depending where
north
you
for
grew up.
me is anything north, like Flint.
Okay.
North, like Flint is not up north, but anything
Past
north
Flint.
of Flint.
That's probably what
like
I would
if you
think
got to
these
pass Flint, and then if you're going like west, west is just west. Like if you got to go to Ann Arbor, you're going to Ann Arbor. If you're going to Grand Rapids, that's not up north,
No, that's out west.
but north of Grand Rapids, like if you got to go to Big Rapids,
Yes.
that's up north.
Traverse City is up north.
Mount Pleasant.
What
up
about
north.
Frankenmuth? That's north of Flint, but do you consider it up north when you go to
No,
Frankenmuth?
that's south of Flint.
No, it's north. It's got to be north.
No, it's south.
Okay, is it south? It's east of Flint, though. Because it
It-
takes longer for me to get to Frankenmuth.
Wait, is
Than
it?
Flint.
Because Birch Run is before Flint, right?
No.
after?
No. Flint, Frankenmuth is closer to Saginaw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it is north of
But I don't consider it up north. I think because I go there all the time.
Frankenmuth. I wouldn't consider Frankenmuth up north.
Although when I was young, I think as late as my college years, I was considering like anything past like 18 mile up north. Like I worked in Shelby Township for several years, and it was funny because I was working at 21 Mile, and I always thought that was up north, which actually, nope, that would not be north of Flint. So still, but I would consider that up north.
The other thing that drives me nuts is we as kids here in Michigan, we're always, it's always like, oh, I'm going up to Traverse City, I'm going up to Lansing, I'm going up to whatever. And then you start to get a little older and kids go other places and they're like, yeah, I'm going up to Florida for vacation. And I'm like, you don't go up to Florida, dummy. So it's like, as Michiganders or Michiganians, whatever they call us, we're almost taught as like young kids, like
just
whenever
go up.
you go up and then whatever your destination is. I'm going up to Hawaii.
Which is kind of crazy because if you think about it, 90% of the places you would travel to in the United States are down from Michigan.
Or south, yeah.
Yeah, but we always go up. We always go up north
Yeah,
because we have a pretty awesome
we always
state.
go up north and have a great time.
Well, because the instant you go south, you're in Ohio, which is
It's
like
just crap.
Yeah. I'm going on vacation to Ohio next week. We'll get to that in a minute.
Ugh.
But Ohio's the worst.
It is the worst.
To all our friends in Ohio. So cool. You been up to anything else, or?
No, not really. Just working my tail off, and my kids have been gone all summer at camps and whatnot. So just been able to kind of enjoy my summer.
I can't believe we're in. Let's see, by the time this airs, it'll be August 10th. So we're mid-August already.
Mid-August, yeah.
And I don't know where that time went.
No, neither do I.
I was telling you this before we started. We've been I don't want to put this crassly, but I'll put it crassly. We've been on like the Grim Reaper's hit list this whole summer.
Yeah, you were telling me about this.
So we had, and this is part of the reason why we haven't had an episode in so long. I've been like making the funeral circuit. It's been crazy. So we had my mom's mom. I started this summer with all of my grandparents. Like all of them were still living. And in May, my mom's mom died. The same week she was diagnosed with cancer, my wife's last living grandmother passed away. Was diagnosed. And she passed away about a month ago. And then out of nowhere, my dad's mom died of an aneurysm a few weeks ago. So we've been going like to funeral to funeral to funeral, and I'm hoping I am done for the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been kind of crazy. Not the way you want to spend your summer. But I guess on the plus side, like they were all full funerals, and everyone had lived to like a nice old age. And
would you say a ripe old age?
A ripe old age, yes, a ripe old age. And so they were nice funerals, a lot of stories and laughs. So that was good, but it has meant we've had to kind of cut back on recording. So we're gonna try and make up, doing some catch up here. So summer movies, have you seen anything good?
I have. I'm trying to think of what summer movies came out. I mean, I saw Infinity War.
Okay, we've talked about the Xfinity War.
That's the cable wars.
Xfinity War is what happens when you call Comcast customer service.
Yeah, because your rate went up. No, I saw Infinity War. I saw. Oh man, I'm blanking.
Did you see Ant-Man?
I saw Ant-Man and Wasp. Shoot, what else? I saw some kids movie. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I'm blanking at all summer movies that have come out.
Wow.
I wanted to see Transylvania 3, Hotel Transylvania 3.
Okay, I have not seen that.
I like the first two.
Okay.
Because I love the first two. So I want to see the third one, and I just wasn't able to see it. I want to see Megalodon.
The Meg?
That comes out August 10th.
Yes. I am really hoping Jason Statham punches a shark in it. If he doesn't, what's the whole point?
What's the point?
Yeah.
So I do want to see that. Molly and I were huge shark fans. Oh, Shark Week was this summer.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you this. We're not down with Shark Week because they put a bunch of fake crap on there.
I think you talked about this last week. It was last year it was like Shark Fest, right?
Yeah, so we go with Shark Fest and had a great time this year watching Shark Fest and just good stuff, learned more about sharks, which is nerdy and dumb. But yeah, I mean, as far as summer movies, I know I've seen a lot. Did any start? Oh, I saw Solo.
Oh, how was it? I have not seen Solo. It was out of the theaters so fast.
So Solo came out, and I heard nothing but bad about it. Okay? So I was like, all right, I'm not going to see it. Then I listened to Kevin Smith, the director, writer, wrote Clerks, directed Clerks, Mallrats, all that stuff. I was listening to his podcast, which he does, called Fat Man on Batman, where they talk a lot about the entertainment industry as it pertains to movies and comics and things like that. And so it went to him, and they, the topic got brought up to them, and everyone was dissing it and everything like that. And it got to him, and he just said, what he said that I'm about to say is, I don't think any big revealing thing, but it stuck with me, where he said, you're never going to get the reaction, get the feeling that you got when you first saw Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so here we all are. We all sat as kids, early teenagers, when the first Star Wars were coming out. We went to the prequels that let us down. And then now we're seeing Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rogue One, that were pretty decent movies. But now we're like, it seems like each one that comes out gets worse and worse and worse. And what Kevin Smith was saying is they're not getting worse. Like, Star Wars is what it is. It's a family-friendly, space story, space drama. And so he went on and he just said Solo is what it is. Like, if you're a fan of Han Solo and you just want to see how, some loose ends, about some things that were mentioned in all the movies, but you never actually saw the Kessel Run, how he met Chewie, all these different things, that's in the movie. And so once I heard him say that, I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not looking for a movie to change my life. I'm not looking for a Star Wars movie to be like the holy grail of movies. So as soon as he said that, I literally went in the next 2 days, and I saw it. I just saw it as a movie, as pure entertainment, and I loved it.
Awesome.
So I've been telling people that, dude, just see it. Don't think it's going to change the world or your life or anything like that.
I think what people... And I'm kind of I kind of been outside of this because I didn't grow up with Star Wars. I saw it when I was in high school, I think is when I first saw them. So I haven't had this childhood connection to them. Mm-hmm. But I remember when they announced the Star Wars movies were coming back, and by the way, we're making a Star Wars movie every year. And everyone was excited, and I remember thinking, you're going to sour of that pretty quickly. Because the thing about Star Wars was it was always special. Like, you had to wait 3 years between movies in the trilogy. And then you had to wait another, 16 years between the end of that original trilogy and the start of the prequels. And even then, those movies came out, like, I think every 2 years. And then the prequels were done, and you thought, no more Star Wars.
Right.
So it was this special thing, and the summer movie season hadn't really started with, like, all these special effects blockbusters when Star Wars came out. And it was this special, cool, fantastic thing. But now, like, every movie that comes out is Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, you can go see a small Avengers movie, and it's using more special effects than the original Star Wars had.
Right.
And so I remember thinking, it's just going to be like every other movie.
Yeah.
The Marvel movies, for whatever reason, haven't done that to me yet. Like, I still...
Well, the Marvel movies, I mean,
There's like 10 different franchises.
Right, but the thing with them is they have storylines for years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So whenever you write a Star Wars movie, you're sitting down to write that plot. If I'm writing the next Captain America movie, I have the entire catalog of Captain America where I can pick and choose what storyline, what villain I want to use. You know, and I can say like, oh, this one's fantastic, you know? And so you can do all of that, and you have all these stories ready to go. And so that's why I think it's a bit easier for like Marvel and what should be DC, but DC has pretty much screwed the pooch.
No, they're just like hobbling.
They're
along.
awful. I mean, you know, So,
I got briefly excited because I saw the preview for Shazam, which I think looks like a lot of fun.
It does.
But then, like, right after that, I saw the preview for Aquaman, which I'm like, that looks really silly.
Now, Aquaman is getting, like, fantastic reviews. Like, the teasers that they've put out.
See, I thought the trailer looked so silly.
I mean, it does.
And maybe that's a good thing.
And I was just kind of like, what? But, like, Kevin Smith, again, on his podcast, he said that he's seen, you know, like, because he's in the biz, he's seen, like, extended clips and stuff, and he says it's fantastic. He thinks it's going to be the best DC movie. He thinks it's going to be better than Wonder Woman.
We'll see.
But another thing that he said that struck a chord with me, and I never thought about, was in these Star Wars movies that are coming out, what Disney appears to be doing is Disney appears to be trying to appeal to me. So the characters that came out in the 70s and early 80s are the characters, like now it's, you know, the Han Solo movie. They want to do a Boba Fett movie. They want to do an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. Well, a thing that he said that I didn't really think about was, as much as those of us that are in our 40s and stuff hate the prequels were the Star Wars, were the introduction for the generation that's younger than me, the 20-somethings and the 30-year-olds. That was theirs. So they don't want to go back and see this story of, like, you know, who cares about Boba Fett? We want to see Darth Maul. We want to see these characters that were introduced, you know, Count Dooku, General Grievous. They want to see the movies that deal with these characters. And there's definitely a point to it where the older generation, like, you know, my dad, who's in his 60s, my mom, who's in her 60s, when a Star Wars movie comes out, they're not the ones rushing to the movie theater to see the Solo movie who comes out. But this next generation that's coming up that has all these fantastic movies and, you know, been raised on Harry Potter and all these different things and, you know, Lord of the Rings and whatnot. You know, he was saying, like, they actually, for the older fans, we have to take a step back and let Disney work the newer characters in. And I never thought about that. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, my daughter doesn't give two farts about a Han Solo movie because she's the age group that she started watching Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rogue One. That's Star Wars to her. She hasn't sat through the prequels. She's watched Star Wars, a little bit of Empire, and a little bit of Return of the Jedi. So to her, the Star Wars universe is Force Awakens, is Last Jedi, like, is that. And so for her to be like, oh, Han Solo movie came out. Wasn't he the old guy that Kylo Ren killed? Yeah, well, you're going to learn about his life. I don't care about his life. I want to know more about Kylo Ren.
See, my son's kind of a mixture of that. Because my wife is a huge Star Wars fan. So he saw Star Wars, like he saw the original trilogy a couple of years ago. And he likes them. But yeah, I think he's also, like, he likes Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. He somehow thinks he likes Boba Fett, but I think it's just because everyone talks about Boba Fett, who has no character.
Yeah.
But yeah, he really gets into... He runs around the house with a helmet on, pretending to be Poe. And he likes Finn and Rey. And yeah, so it's this weird audience. Thinking what I've seen, because I haven't seen his mini movies, but I did see Ant-Man, and I liked that.
I did too.
But that's really all I can say, is I liked it.
I did too.
And that's kind of all I wanted, was fun.
Yep.
And it was. I saw Incredibles 2.
Oh, I saw that,
which I really liked.
I knew there was a kids movie in there that I saw.
I thought that was fun. I saw Skyscraper, which...
Crickets.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I mean, it's Skyscraper is fine. Like, I don't think it's horrible. But do you remember a few years ago when they started doing... they did the remakes of Total Recall and RoboCop.
Yeah.
And they just made them totally bland.
Yeah.
And, like, totally bland, PG-13, robbed them of any of the character they had. It feels like with Skyscraper, they started to do that with Die Hard and then lost the rights. Because it is such a Die Hard clone, except the building's also on fire. And it's just, like, I can't figure out The Rock. Like, he should be this big, badass action star. But he really, like, is also, like, trying to present himself as kind of, like, cuddly family man and stuff.
Yeah, like a jack of all trades, because he's in comedies.
And he can do all that.
Yeah.
But he tries to do it all in the same movie, too, which is weird. Like, a Die Hard movie shouldn't be, like, kid-friendly, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was all right, but it was pretty forgettable.
Did you see Rampage with him?
No.
Rampage literally came out, and the next week I saw
I thought it looked
on
fun.
DVD.
I thought it looked fun, but I never ended up getting around to that. I did see the Mr. Rogers documentary.
I didn't see that. I haven't seen that yet.
That was good. I wasn't much of a Mr. Rogers kid, but I liked that. I cried. It was kind of a reminder of what we need right now, is just people being nice to each other.
Yeah.
But then I think the big one, my favorite one, have you seen Mission Impossible yet?
No.
Fantastic.
Really?
It is. I would put it up there with, like, Mad Max Fury Road and John Wick is, like, one of the best action movies of the last 20 years. It is so phenomenal.
You would put Mad Max up there?
Mad Max Fury Road is incredible. Oh, no. That is one of the great action movies.
No, I didn't like that at all.
Oh, I loved it.
Like, other than Book of Eli, I am not a big post-apocalyptic...
Okay, I can see that.
Thing. I don't know why. It's never... Like, that genre has never got... I remember... Mad Max Beyond Thunder, or Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, all those growing up, and I never got into them. And then when they did Fury Road, everyone talked about how amazing it was, and I watched it, and I was just like, okay.
I thought the stunts were...
But not John Wick.
John Wick is really good.
Like,
and I would put Mission Impossible up there.
I can't wait for the third of the trilogy of the John Wicks to come out. Like, I can't wait for that. I own both of the first two on Blu-ray. I love those.
Yeah, those are great. I do love those. I love The Raid. Have you seen The Raid? It's an Indonesian movie. And there's two of them. And one of them is just kind of like this really kind of just confined movie about where these... Have you seen the Judge Dredd movie they did a few years ago? Think of the same thing. Like all these criminals have taken over this building in the middle of Jakarta. And these cops have to come in. And, like, half the cops are wiped out. It's all about one cop, pretty much. And he's just making his way... Is it subtitles? You can do it subtitles or dubbed.
Okay.
I'll bring it next time. I have it on DVD. But it is just 2 hours of the most insane martial arts. Like, just bone-crunching, crazy fast martial arts. And then they did a sequel, which kind of takes that idea, but almost makes like a Godfather movie out of it. So you have this Godfather, like, mob-type movie that stops for these just insane fight sequences. And they're great. I love those. But I would put Mission Impossible Fallout up there with them.
Really?
Like, it is so... The stunt work is insane. Like, there's the last half hour, I was just like, holy crap, over and over and over again. And it's worth seeing. It's worth seeing on the biggest screen you can.
Huh.
It's still recording. Wait, we're still... Are we?
Are we recording?
We are still recording.
Whoo! Ladies and gentlemen, we thought
You just got a moment of suspense there.
We were not recording.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I would definitely go see Mission Impossible on the biggest screen. TV-wise, I haven't watched a lot. Better Call Saul's back. I like that.
I watched a lot. This summer I've watched a lot of New Girl, gone back through it. And New Girl, it's kind of funny because New Girl, Molly and I watch it together. We love it. So the show went off and they had an auction. And they auctioned off all the stuff from the set. So Molly got this like candy jar, like this candy bowl. Then she got a night that was at the bar that Nick works at. And then she got a police uniform.
Yeah, I heard you tell this story. You were quite pleased with that.
I'm very pleased with her police uniform. It was a uniform that when Winston got married to, I forget her name, but Winston was a police officer, and then he got engaged and married his partner, and it was her police outfit.
Okay.
And the tailoring on these outfits are amazing that Hollywood does.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, so Molly, I think she's going to be a police officer for Halloween this year, and it will look amazing.
Good
So
for you.
if you're listening to this and you can make it to a Halloween party that Molly and I will be at, you won't be displeased.
Or follow Joe on Instagram.
Follow me on Instagram, so there's going to be 1,000 pictures of it.
The show I started watching, I just started binging this last week. Have you ever seen Detroiters?
No.
Do you know what it is?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard of it,
I
but
think
I don't
you would
know
dig
what
it.
is.
But it's Comedy Central, so if you don't have cable, it might be hard to find.
I have it on Hulu.
Okay. It's really good. So it's this show by two comedians who used to live in Detroit. They're from the area, and they play two advertising execs in Detroit. And basically, they're trying to just make these like silly little ads, and that's the show. And like every episode, obviously, they get into some weird trouble or something. But it's filmed here. It's all filmed throughout the area. So they're going to the Science Center. They're going, to there's a little bit filmed at the Whitney, the zoo, things like that.
Really?
But also, like, the amount of in-jokes in this show. Like, if you grew up here, I don't know how the show got renewed, because outside of Detroit, I don't know that anyone would get the references. So, like, there's some big ones. Like, they're always drinking Verner's or Faygo. They're eating Coney dogs and things like that.
Do they say what up, though?
I don't know if they say that.
Because that's a Detroit thing.
They have a whole episode that centers on April and the D, that music, which I didn't even know was a thing. And there's a running joke about Mort Krim being a huge badass. It's really good.
Is it like modern day? Or
Yeah,
is it like,
it's modern day.
Okay.
Except a lot of the references, like they'll do stuff like kind of riffing on the what was it? The New Dance Show. Do you remember that on 60?
Yeah.
So they do an episode on that. They have, I think they kind of riff on the Mel Farr ads.
Yeah.
My favorite joke was they're talking to this guy and they're trying to get his business doing like a shoe store. And like, well, what would really be funny is if there was just like a little cartoon version of you that jumped around going 25 or 250, 25 or 250, and the guy like looks at he's like, why does he sound so stupid? So I would highly recommend that if you live.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, it's really good. I hope my wife isn't listening. I paid $20 just to download the second season because I couldn't find it anywhere. Like this Comedy Central app wasn't working for me. It wasn't on Hulu when I couldn't find it on Hulu, so I got it on Amazon. I just subscribed for a season, and yeah, it's pretty great stuff.
Oh, nice.
So.
I started binge watching a show that is recently on Netflix, but I guess was out in 2010 on HBO called Todd Margaret. Have you heard of this?
That's David Cross. Right?
Is that
the increasingly
yeah. The increasingly bad decisions or poor decisions of Todd Margaret. Have you seen it?
I haven't, but I've thought about watching it because I like everyone in there.
Molly's like, hey, I turned this on the other day and I was cleaning the house. I think it's a comedy, but I'm not sure. So she turns it on. We start watching it together. I am literally rolling on the ground, trying to breathe I'm laughing so hard.
I'll have to check that out.
And she goes, oh, so apparently this is a comedy. I'm like, how could you not think this is a comedy? And she's like, well, I was cleaning the house, I was folding laundry, I was doing stuff, I wasn't paying attention. It is hysterical. I mean, it's the language is pretty bad.
Okay.
But it is hysterical, and it's just basically about this wimpy guy who stumbles his way into a job promotion where his boss sends him to London to sell energy drinks because somehow he thinks that the largest consumption of energy drinks is in London. And so he buys a bunch of this Korean energy drink that's like not FDA approved or whatever, and sends this guy there to sell it. And he's the most timid, horrible salesman, and it's just how it is funny.
Is Will Arnett in that?
He is.
Okay.
Yeah, Will Arnett, and then Tobias Funke, and there's like some other people in it that it's just funny.
Now, my wife and I recently, just last week actually, started going back. They remixed the 4th season of Arrested Development for Netflix, and they cut everything to like 20-minute episodes, and then they rearranged everything. Because did you ever see when they originally put it out there?
I did, and it was horrible.
Okay, yeah.
So I know that I watched it, but I don't remember it.
Literally, I'm rewatching it now, and I don't remember anything that happened.
I just remember Portia didn't look like Portia.
Nope.
Maybe did not look like maybe.
No, and what's really weird is sometimes they'll do flashbacks. So they'll show something from the original run, but then in the next moment, like one of them will walk on the screen, and it's really jarring because it's supposed to take place like 5 seconds later. And so you have like this little Michael Cera, and then like older, ugly Michael Cera like walks, who has not aged well at all.
Or the same thing, you have Portia, beautiful.
She looks so different.
And
it's
then
crazy.
Season 4, it's like,
she looks plastic.
Did you just go to a plastic surgeon and say do everything?
Yeah, just coat it all in plastic.
I don't want to look like how I used to look. It was rough.
Yeah, and what I remember too is the long stretches where no one was interacting because they couldn't get everyone on the set together. So they've edited it together a little bit so that kind of the characters are interacting more, and they'll move around the timelines and stuff so it flows a little bit better. And it's kind of funny. Like, the jokes land a lot better and it moves faster. But literally, like, every episode stops for about 5 minutes of recap just to make sure everything fits together. And it's like in the middle of an episode, Ron Howard will start explaining something, and it'll just go to flashbacks for like 10 minutes. It's crazy. But I want to get through it because I've heard the 5th season was actually pretty good.
See, that's what I want to do too. So I went back. That was another thing at the beginning of summer. Started going back, watching all the Arrested Developments, and we're into like season 2, but I haven't watched anything in like 2 weeks. Like, I haven't watched any of those episodes in like 2 weeks. But we were watching New Girl, going back over Arrested Development. I'm trying to think of other things that I was watching. I can't, not off the top of my head. Todd Margaret, I started watching that. Yeah. Still into wrestling. So I've been watching wrestling.
There have been a lot of like wrestler deaths lately.
Yeah, there have. A lot of them. Those guys live hard lives. The old schoolers live hard lives. The guys nowadays, they kind of...
Because they learn their lesson.
Yeah, they kind of have more policy and procedure in place, like safety nets for the guys that are nowadays.
Have you ever seen the old... not that old, it's maybe 10 years old. The movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
That was a really good movie.
Just a broken piece of meat. I love using that. He's just a broken down piece of meat.
I feel like there was some documentary, too, that was showing just how broken down all these guys were.
Well, there was one that was called Beyond the Ring or Outside
Beyond
the
the Mat.
Beyond the Mat.
I remember hearing about it. I never saw it. But
and then there's a new one that came out a few years ago called The Resurrection of Jake the Snake.
Okay.
And that's fantastic. If you're like an old school wrestling fan, you don't have to be a new school wrestling fan. Or if you're a fan of just good documentaries, it's a documentary about how Jake the Snake, and I don't think the movie started this way, but Jake the Snake and then this other wrestler, Scott Hall, who people may know as like Razor Ramon. So Scott Hall and Jake the Snake are contacted by Diamond Dallas Page.
All these names mean nothing.
Okay, so Diamond Dallas Page was big in the 90s, and he retired and was sick and injured, so he started yoga. Yoga changed his life.
Okay.
So now he actually runs a facility called Diamond Dallas Page, like Diamond Yoga or something like that, by him. And it's a thriving business, and he believes in it so much that he reached out to Jake the Snake Roberts and this guy Scott Hall. Both of them who are just horrible on drugs and alcohol and all this stuff. And he's gotten these guys back to they've been clean and sober. Scott Hall is doing more in wrestling, like he's kind of an ambassador for like the WWE. Jake the Snake is alive and well and sober, and so this movie is a really, really good thing for that. And I know it was on Netflix, but it's called The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. And
I feel like there was an Iron Sheik one too.
There was an Iron Sheik documentary, and he was same thing, like messed up. He like smoked crack and did all sorts of stuff. He was not good.
Okay.
That one didn't end on a positive
Okay,
note
I wouldn't think that one did. The Andre the Giant one, did you see that?
No.
Oh, it's
I
so...
heard it's
and I'm
good.
not even like a huge wrestling guy, obviously. But I watched it as a kid. And so Andre the Giant, like I remember the Silver Dome, WrestleMania 3.
Yep.
And they devote so much time to that.
Do they?
But it's so... Like, it's so weird because I haven't watched wrestling in 30 years, but they're showing clips from,
maybe
like...
it's time to change that. Maybe it's time to change
I think
that.
it might be. I think my wife is going to love this decision.
You can get on tonight and watch SmackDown.
But, like, it was so funny. They're showing clips of, like, this, him and Hulk Hogan setting up the fight on whatever aired on Saturday mornings. Like, and they had, the Piper's Pit.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that. Like, I'm watching this, and I remember seeing that as a kid when it happened. And Hulk Hogan's on, and he's like, and I gotta tell you, brother, I was as soon as he ripped my shirt off, I was crying, man. I was crying.
Hogan, that guy is something else.
Yeah, so yeah, Andre the Giant one is really good.
That was on HBO, right?
That was on HBO.
Okay, I just got HBO back for this month because they start their Hard Knocks series, like they're behind the scenes of like of an NFL team. So I have it for the month, so I got to catch up on all these movies. So I got to watch the documentary on Andre the Giant on that and see if there's anything else on there, any other HBO documentaries. Or
there is one I just watched, and I don't know how into comedy you are, like stand-up comedy or anything.
I hate comedy. If I hate laughing.
Okay. Well, no, I'm like obsessed with stand-up comedy. Like the whole idea behind the whole world.
Yeah.
It's 2 parts, 4.5 hours long. It's the Zen Diaries of Gary Shandling.
Oh, I heard that's great.
Oh my gosh. And I knew who Gary Shandling was. I'd seen him on a few things. I've never watched.
By Judd Apatow.
By Judd Apatow, who was like really close with him.
Yeah.
And I zipped through this thing.
It's funny and it's good.
It's
funny because of the content.
The content and so many comedians sharing stories about him. It's really interesting because I knew very little about Gary Shandling.
Yeah, me too.
So, and now I want to go back and watch Larry Sanders' show.
Exactly, yeah.
And I know that's on HBO, so I need to get to that. But it's also really cool because you just see... He was a very thoughtful guy, but you just kind of see how neurotic he was, too.
Yeah.
And... like the amazing thing about all these comedians is how every one of them just seems to have these deep mental issues.
Yeah, for sure.
They're so neurotic, so insecure, and they just turn that into like such good comedy.
Yeah.
And there's a Robin Williams one on there I want to see too.
Yeah, Robin Williams is like, I never thought his stand-up was funny. Like his stand-up was that typical 80s coked out stand-up.
Yeah.
Where everyone who was watching it was all coked out. And when you have like Andrew Dice Clay, you have Bobcat Goldthwait, like those guys that like Pauly Shore, when like their comedy was based on like a character shtick, it made the comedy was funny because it was coming from a place of shtick.
Yeah.
But the actual jokes weren't comedic gold. Now that I've gotten older, Andrew Dice Clay, like his jokes, when you look back on them, you're like, that is so stupid.
Hey!
It's funny, you know. Jack and Jill went up the hill, you know, like that stuff is so stupid. It's funny, but like I don't go back and like what like go on YouTube and pull up like Bobcat Goldthwait. Like when you listen to his comedy, it's not even funny.
Well, can you understand what he says? Because everything's like,
right, he does do that. And what's funny is he came out about 3 years ago, came out with a new comedy, a new stand-up comedy. And I think it was on Netflix. And so he comes out, as soon as he comes out, everyone starts clapping. And he's like, hey, ladies and gentlemen, you know, how you doing? And his first joke is, oh, did you think I was going to come out and go, hey, and like and talk like how he did? And he goes, no, I stopped doing coke 10 years ago, you know, or whatever it was, 20 years ago. And so his whole stand-up routine was talking about how coked up he was to do that character. And so he's like, I don't even know what I would say. He's like, I just came out here every night and blabbed and everybody laughed because they were all doing coke. And so it was just like the most bizarre thing.
Yeah, we live in such a cool age for stand-up, too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to ditch the rest of the episode because we're pretty far along. And, like, Netflix has just changed how much access you have to everything.
I know.
Do you watch any of John Mulaney's stuff?
No.
His newest special, I think it's Kid Gorgeous Goes to Carnegie Hall. So funny. I think that's on Netflix, and so good. Like, I like that. Jim Gaffigan just put out a new one.
Gaffigan's hysterical. Brian Regan.
I don't know if I've seen him.
Brian Regan just put his new one on Netflix. Regan's hysterical. Once you see him, you're going to be like, I know this guy.
Okay.
And he's like, when you watch comedians in cars getting coffee, did you ever watch that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Jerry Seinfeld. Like, Brian Regan is the comedian that like a lot of comedians think is funny.
Okay.
And they just hanging out with the guy. They're like, just to hang out with him, he's just hysterical, like off stage. And you know, they're like, so many of us, we get on stage and that's our comedy. And then we get off and we live these like depressed, you know, weed-induced lives where we don't do anything, you know. But they're just like, Brian's just a great guy. He's a good family guy. And I think it comes out in his stand-up. Like, my kids can sit down and listen to him, and, you know, you don't have to worry about it. But it's like Gaffigan, Brian Regan. There was another guy who had a show this year, a stand-up on Netflix. It was called Happy Face.
Yeah, okay. You recommended that, and I watched
Hamilton?
it. That sounds very... I can't remember his name. I can just remember his very unnerving face. Like, he looks very terrifying.
If you just heard that, that was my sliding glass door. Yes, he was hysterical. Like, the first 10 minutes of his act was great. But yeah, like, Netflix is just doling out, like, specials to any stand-up who will do it. Who's the dude from like Australia? I want to say Bill Burr, but it's not Bill Burr.
Nanette?
No, there's a guy, and I mean, he is like, I think he's becoming the who's the other guy that got hemmed up because of like sexual harassment stuff?
Louis C.K.?
Louis C.K.
Okay.
So this guy is like the next like Louis C.K.
Okay.
Like his comedy falls like in that line, like kind of like raunchy, kind of says whatever he wants to say, and I can't think of it, but he's Australian and he's hilarious.
Okay.
I was just dying at his stuff, but he's very like non-PC. Which makes it even funnier. Yeah, which makes it even funnier this day and age. Because you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that. But no, that was good. Chris Rock came out with the new special.
I like the Chris Rock one a lot, yeah.
Ricky Gervais.
Okay.
We talked about that.
Yeah, we did, yeah. And you said he kind of toned down the whole...
Yeah, and so we had talked about him and bashed him, and then I did watch his new one, and his new one was fantastic, and he wasn't that, like... brash anti-crit. I mean, he definitely still doesn't believe, but he wasn't like, he's like, hey, you can believe what you want to believe. When a decade ago, he was like, you could, you know, not even you can believe what you want to believe. If you believe this, you're an idiot.
I knew people who were atheists who were sick of his atheism. Yes. Like, it was crazy.
Yes.
The one they did put on there a few months ago, too, and it's worth checking out. I don't know if people would find it as funny as everyone else, but it's Steve Martin and Martin Short. They tour the country doing doing an act, and we saw them do that live about a year ago. And it's the same exact show.
I thought I remembered hearing you. I thought you told me that you went to that.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, it's rooted in their personality, so it's kind of old fashioned in a way. Uh-huh. But I mean, it's not as funny as being there because there's just something about being like in the presence of those guys.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth a look. And
see, I'm to that age where when I was growing up, I was a stand-up comedian junkie. Mm-hmm. Like from age like 11. When Comedy Central came out and they had the A-list where, it was like a half-hour show and it'd show like 4 or 5 different comedians. I used to watch that all the time. Me and Nate Sjogren, our drummer from Insiders, we would like sneak into Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. You had to be, over 18 and we weren't. And we'd sneak in and they'd let us in and we'd just, watch comedians and stuff. And I love stand-up comedy. And so, totally forgot what I was going to say. What were you just talking about?
As you got older.
So as I got older, I don't know where I was going with that.
I'm not in your brain.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. But
I don't know, but we were talking about Steve Martin and Martin Short, kind of old-fashioned comedy, and anything sparking anything.
Nothing.
All right,
it's just crickets up in my head.
Well, that might be a good place to end this.
Let's end there so I'm not talking.
So we have rambled on, but it's good to be back and good to have our sea legs. And I think next week we'll be back with even more to talk about. So we will see ya.
See ya.